Hello, my dear ones, and welcome to online classes. My name is Akshay ji. I know most of you are familiar with me, with my face. It's been quite a long time we hadn't met. As Satish sir is on leave, I'm asked to engage English for a while. As you all know, my style of beginning any new topic, I give introduction to the title, I speak some relevant things about it. Likewise, let me begin today's class as well, my dear ones. Very soon you're gonna come back to school, I hope so. Hoping that, let me today begin a new topic. And before I begin, as you all know, I speak some relevant things. My dear ones, when you have aims or when you aim to sky, people laugh at you. As the very famous saying goes, every new idea is a joke unless it is implemented, executed. It is till then it is a joke. When you aim to sky, people laugh at you, but don't worry. You concentrate and remain determined in achieving whatever your aims are. Think positively, become optimistic. Optimistic is like thinking only positive. Opposite of optimistic is pessimistic. My dear ones, think so positive that those who laughed at you, those who taunted, insulted, considered your aims as a joke, shall appreciate looking at your achievements. To that level, you got to become optimistic. To that level. When you plan to achieve, first thing is achieving that aim, a goal, is a part, is one part, one thing. The other thing is you have to overcome your fears, your the all negative thoughts you have in your mind. First, you got to overcome that. That is what is required, my dear ones. Okay, let's say you overcame your negative thoughts, your fear, and so on. You planned to achieve your aim. You know your way to reach your goal. You are determined. Let's assume you became successful. You achieved your aims and goals in your life. Then the question rises, my dear ones, what further? When you have achieved your aims, what further? What else? This question has no answer, or let me say, has got very deep answer. And not others can answer you for this question, only you yourself can answer. You can answer to yourself, my dear ones. Let's say, for example, you have planned to score 100 out of 100 in an examination, and you have scored with great concentration, determination, and so on. After scoring, the question comes to your mind naturally, what further? What next? What's next? This question must come, and the answer you only must find. My dear ones, physical achievement, I mean to say, the aim in which your physical support is also required Overcoming that is quite easier than overcoming the mental abilities or the thoughts, I mean, the negative thoughts and all of that. Physically, you may achieve, but mentally, you got to be stronger, my dear ones. Mentally, you got to be stronger. So, overcoming not just physically, but also mentally is required. And in this, in this journey of yours, in reaching your aim or goal, you meet many people, many achievers. But you should rather get inspired than, doubting on your abilities. When you look at their achievements, it happens. You doubt on your own abilities. That shouldn't be the case. You should rather get inspired and aspire the way they have acquired to achieve their aims. My dear ones, and also you meet in this journey your friends who have same aims as of yours and who are also on the same or in the same way on which you are. What would you do? You shall help such. You shall help such. Sometimes winning doesn't matter. Winning actually means helping others to win the race, being the participant of that race. Sometimes that's also a victory. Victory within, the great satisfaction you get there, that's victory, my dear ones. My dear ones, after reaching certain heights, after achieving, many questions might come in your mind. My dear ones, the reason I'm speaking all this is, today we are going to study a new lesson. Let me share the screen with you all. Yes, here we go. The lesson is the summit within. The lesson is summit within. What does summit mean? Summit here means, my dear ones, mountain, peaks, mountains. Summit means peak or a mountain. Within, the word within is used in this title. The summit within. In this lesson, my dear ones, the author speaks about overcoming the mountain, the peak within. How come a mountain or a summit be within? He means to say overcoming the mental, like negative thoughts or mentality, like whether I may achieve, whether I will achieve or not, such mentality. Overcoming the fear within, overcoming insults which is kept within you, which are kept within you, I mean. My dear ones, you'll understand once I start explaining this story, beautiful story, The Summit Within, written by Major, it's here, Major HPS Ahluwalia. HPS Ahluwalia. HPS Ahluwalia was a member of the first successful Indian expedition to the Mount Everest in 1965. How did he feel when he stood on the highest point in the world? Let us hear his story in his words. Climbing the summit and then the more difficult task of climbing the summit within. My dear ones, this story is being told by the author himself, Major HPS Ahluwalia, who was a member of the first successful Indian expedition to Mount Everest in 1965. This was a team kind of which were mountaineers who used to climb mountains, and this was the first team from India who climbed Mount Everest for the first time in 1965, and HPS Ahluwalia was the member of this team. How did he feel when he was on the highest point in the world? Let's hear in his words. The speaker of this lesson is author himself, my dear ones. And then there is a line given here, climbing the summit, and then the more difficult task of climbing the summit within. He climbs the mountain, he climbs the summit, Mount Everest, for sure. But climbing the summit within was a difficult task for him. Why? What happened? How did it happen? What did he feel when he was on the top of the world? Let's see all of that in this lesson. The Summit Within, written by Major HPS Ahluwalia. Of all the emotions which surged through me as I stood on the summit of Everest, looking over miles of panorama below us, the dominant one I think was humility. My dear ones, here the author is speaking about his feelings when he was on the top of the Mount Everest. He says, of all the emotions which surged, meaning is given here, which rose suddenly or and intensely, which the emotions which rose inside him suddenly as he stood on the summit of Everest, on the top of the mountain, Mount Everest, looking over the miles of panorama below them. Panorama, you all know, in camera, you get that option, panorama shoot. What does that mean? A view of wide area, a view of wide area. It covers a wide area, isn't it? When you use it on camera, that option. And he is on the top of the Mount Everest, where it feels like he's on the top of the world. That's the reason he uses the word panorama below us, over the miles. He could see view of wide, area. The physical in me seemed to say, thank God, it's all over. However, instead of being jubilant, there was a tinge of sadness. Tinge here meaning is shade or trace, small part. Was it because I had already done the ultimate in climbing and there would be nothing higher to climb and all roads hereafter would lead down? He is questioning himself, my dear ones. He has got these thoughts in his mind. His physical body, could say that thank God, it's all over. The body was exhausted of climbing the highest peak in the world. But there was small sadness, small part of sadness in his mind and heart. Because he had this question in his mind, was it because I had already done the ultimate in the climbing? He was not that happy. Jubilant meaning very happy because of success. Because of success, he did not feel very happy. He did not feel jubilant. Instead, there was a small part of sadness in his heart and mind. Why? Maybe because he is done with the ultimate in climbing. In climbing, it is considered climbing Mount Everest is the ultimate thing. Maybe because of that, and there would be nothing higher to climb, and all the roads hereafter would lead down. And maybe because there is nothing higher than this Mount Everest to climb, and all the roads hereafter would lead only downsides. Was this the reason for him being sad? These are his thoughts, my dear ones. By climbing the summit of Everest, you are overwhelmed by a deep sense of joy and thankfulness. That's quite natural, my dear ones. When you climb the summit of Everest, the highest peak in the world, you will be overwhelmed by a deep sense of joy and thankfulness. It is a joy which lasts a lifetime. For the whole life, that joy remains. The experience changes you completely. The experience changes you completely. The man who has been to the mountains is never the same again. You know what it is said here? That experience changes the man. The man who has been to Mount Everest or mountains is never the same again, because he experiences so many things there, so many aspects, matters. Ultimately, coming back alive is a big task, because whether the climate keeps on changing in the mountain areas, as you all know, there are many hurdles, difficulties in life, while climbing the mountain. You never know, unexpectedly things change. Whether your body condition, everything changes unexpectedly. So the man will not remain the same after climbing mountains. As I look back at my life after climbing Everest, I cannot help remarking about the other summit. The summit of the mind, no less formidable and no easier to climb. Then the author says, after climbing Mount Everest, he cannot stop himself by mentioning about another summit, another mountain, that is the summit of the mind. He had to overcome this, which was not that easy, which was not at all, not at all formidable to climb, which was not at all comfortable to climb. Even when getting down from the summit, once the physical exhaustion had gone, I began asking myself the question why I had climbed Everest. Look at the interesting thing, my dear ones. The mind plays many games with us sometimes. Likewise, here author is stuck in his thoughts. While climbing down the Mount Everest, when he wished to rest, when his physical exhaustion had gone, again he is to start questioning himself. Why did he climb Mount Everest after all? After climbing, while coming down, he is questioning all these things to himself. He is asking these questions to himself. Why did the act of reaching the summit have such a hold on my imagination? Why this has made everlasting effect on my imagination? He is asking to himself. It was already a thing of the past, something done yesterday. It was already done, like it was a thing of past, something which is done yesterday. Still he is thinking about the same, questioning about the same. With every passing day, it would become more remote. And then what would remain? Would my memories fade slowly away? Again he questions himself. Again, he has got some other questions. With passing day, with passing time, would it become more remote? Would it become more strange for himself? He's asking to himself all these questions. And then what would remain? And then what would remain then in my memories? Or will my memory just go away slowly, fade away slowly? All these thoughts led me to question myself as to why people climb mountains. It is not easy to answer the question. The simplest answer would be, as others have said, because it is there. It is not easy to answer all these questions. He knows that. The simplest answer can be or would be, as others have said, because it is there, people climb the mountains. Very simplest answer, but it is not so. The answer must be deep enough. It presents great difficulties. Man takes delight in overcoming obstacles. The obstacles in climbing a mountain are physical. A climb to a summit means endurance, persistence, and willpower. The demonstration of these physical qualities is no doubt exhilarating, as it was for me also. As it was for me also. My dear ones, then he expresses his experience. He says, man takes delight, which means he becomes happy when he overcomes obstacles, problems in his life. The obstacles in climbing a mountain are physical ones. And a climb to a summit means endurance. Endurance, the time you take there, the persistence and the willpower. That demonstrates the physical qualities one has. And no doubt it is exhilarating. And that is very exciting, he says. For him also it was very exciting. I have a more personal answer to the question. From my childhood, I have been attracted by mountains. I had been miserable, lost when away from mountains in the plains. Mountains are natural at its best. Their beauty and majesty pose a great challenge. And like many, I believe that mountains are a means of communion with God. My dear ones, he has got a personal answer to the question. He's keeping his opinion in front of the readers. He says there, my dear ones, he says that since his childhood, he's been attracted by the mountains. And he used to feel miserable, lost kind of, when he used to be away from the mountains in the plains. Mountains are at its best, are nature at its best, he says. Their beauty, their majesty, the mighty, mighty appearance, they pose a great challenge for him. And like many, he believes that mountains are a means of communion with God. What does the meaning of, what does this mean? A communion with God. Communion with God. Communion means state of feeling of close relationship with God. He feels that climbing mountains are the medium or the state or the feeling of being close with God, being one with the God. He feels that. That's why people might climb. He's feeling all of that. Once having granted this, the question remains, why Everest? Once having this answer to the question, why people climb mountains? Why? Because it is communion with God. Once having this answer, again the question remains, why Everest? Okay, there are so many mountains. Why Everest? because it is the highest, the mightiest, and has defied many previous attempts. Defied, resisted, frustrated. Many have failed. Many previous attempts have failed. It is the highest, it is the mightiest, that's why. It takes the last ounce of one's energy. Ounce, measuring unit of energy. The last bit of energy also it takes away. What? Mount Everest. While climbing Mount Everest, the last energy, the last ounce of energy also is taken away because it is that difficult. It is a brutal struggle with rock and ice. Once taken up, it cannot be given up halfway, even when one's life is at stake. Stake meaning ಬರ್ಕೊಂಬಿಡ್ರಿ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ನಡದಾಗೂ ಅಂದ್ರ ನಾನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೇಳತ್ತೀನಿ ಕನ್ನಡದಾಗ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಈಸಿ ಆಗಿಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬುಕ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೋಡ್ರಿ ನನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ವಾಚ್ ಮೈ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬುಕ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಇನ್ ಇಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇನ್ ಯೋರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ write down the meaning there itself. Stake means risk. Stake means risk. Because climbing Mount Everest is very brutal struggle. It's a struggle with rock and ice. And once taken up, once you start climbing up, you cannot go halfway, even when one's life is at risk. Even when you know that you'll die, you cannot go back. That risky, that difficult climbing Mount Everest is. The passage back is as difficult as the passage onwards, because the passage, when your physical body will definitely say, will cry out saying, let's go back. But when you're halfway, going backwards is as difficult as going upwards or onwards. And then when the summit is climbed, there is exhilaration, the joy of having done something, the sense of a battle fought and won. There is a feeling of victory and of happiness. Once you climb it, once you are on the top of Mount Everest, you feel as if you're on the top of the world. You get the joy of having done something great, the sense of a battle fought and won, and the feeling of victory and happiness once you climb up and stand on the top of Mount Everest. Glimpsing a peak in the distance, I get transported to another world. Looking at another peak in the distance, he feels he gets transported, to another world. I experience a change within myself, which can only be called mystical, spiritual feeling he gets there. By its beauty, aloofness, might, ruggedness, and the difficulties encountered on the way, the peak draws me to it, as Everest did. My dear ones, he says he feels that spiritual sense. By its beauty, by its mightiness, by its roughness, difficulties, all of that, he feels attracted, it draws towards him. He feels attracted like it felt like he felt towards Everest. My dear ones, here aloofness means a distance, from a distance, at or from a distance, but within view, which means it appears to be far, but you feel that within. It appears to be far. In reality, it is far, but it is within your heart. That is aloofness feeling. In reality, your loved one is far, but he or she is within your heart. Your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, whom you love the most. That feeling is called as aloofness. It is a challenge that is difficult to resist. It is a challenge which is very difficult, which you cannot deny. You'd love to accept the challenge because once you climb on the top of the mountain, you'll experience that, author says. My dear ones, let's see this lesson in my next class. He is going to explain hereafter his experience while climbing Mount Everest. What happened? How was the weather? How was what happened with his, you know, with his mates, with his friends who had come along with him? All of that in the second half. Let's see that in my next class. I hope you have understood this story, The Summit Within, written by Major HPS Aluwala. Aluwalia. Thank you. I shall conclude here itself.